From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.
Good day, this is Dateline Malacañang, and here are the news. Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on Tuesday evening announced that he would give 1 million pesos to each Filipino Olympian who joined in the 2024 Paris Olympics. In his message during the welcoming of Filipino Olympians at Malacañang Palace, the president asked the Philippine Amusement and Gaming Corporation, or PAGCOR, to give 1 million pesos to each of the athletes that competed in Paris before saying that his office would match the amount, bringing the total up to 2 million pesos per Olympian. However, this does not include two-time gold medalist Carlos Yulo. The chief executive said his office would also provide 500,000 pesos for the coaching staff. President Marcos said the amount was small compared to the Filipino athletes' sacrifices in the competition. Two-time gold medalist Carlos Yulo, under Republic Act 10699 signed in 2015, or the National Athletes and Coaches Benefits and Incentives Act, was mandated to receive 10 million pesos for each of his two gold medals. With the announcement, he is set to receive 22 million pesos from the Philippine government. Bronze medalist Nesty Petesio and Ira Villegas were supposed to receive 2 million pesos each under the same act, but are now expected to bring home 4 million pesos. The rest of the delegation would receive 2 million pesos each. The country wrapped up the Summer Games at the 37th spot with 2 gold medals from Yulo, who ruled the men's floor exercise and vault, and 2 bronze medals courtesy of boxers Nesty Petesio and Ira Villegas. Let us now listen to the speech of Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. during the event.
Ito yung binigay ninyo sa akin nung nag-send off ako sa inyo. And wow, I never thought how proud I would be to wear it again because of the brilliant performance of our athletes. Let me greet the Philippine Olympic Committee President, Abraham Tolentino, PSC Chairman Richard Bachman, our supporters and friends, so we could not do without in the private sector, fellow workers in government, of course, the First Lady Luis Araneta Marcos, and of course, the most important group that pinakamahalaga na grupo na nandito ngayon, ng ating mga atleta na nakilahok sa Olympic at bumalik na napakagandang resulta. At that is what we are commemorating and celebrating a little bit now. Ladies and gentlemen, magandang gabi sa inyong lahat. Unang-una sa lahat, sa ating mga atleta, sa inyong mga pamilya, welcome sa Palasyo. And the honor is mine, the honor is ours to be able to welcome you, such achievers who have, kumbaga sa pinapaganda ninyo at pinapatingkad ninyo ang pangalan ng Pilipino. At kaya naman, kami naman nagpapasalamat sa inyong lahat. Dahil bukod sa medalya, but of course, Kaloy, your performance was just, it deserved 2 gold medals. And that's how high a standard that we have reached. At ngunit, nakikita naman namin na siguro lahat naman kami rito, pinagdadasal namin kayo At saka isa lang irereklamo ko sa inyo lahat at napuyat ako ng 2 linggo akong puyat para manood ng sari-saring mga event. But yung puyat ko, worth it na worth it dahil talagang napakagandang panoorin kayo at makita kayo. At yung performance ninyo na naging bunga sa taon-taon na sakripisyo ng sarili ninyo, ng inyong mga coach, mga trainer, mga nutritionist, at lalong-lalo na mga pamilya ninyo. At alam naman natin, walang mananalo na atleta na hindi suportado ng katakot-takot na karaming tao na walang iniisip kung paano kayo tulungan para maging successful. And ito yung ating kinikilala ngayon. At napakahalaga. At ngayon, it is now in the international stage. And so, we can see that ulit, ang sikat na naman ng Pilipinas. Pinapasikat ninyo ang Pilipinas sa buong mundo. Alam ko na iniisip ninyo, gymnastics, boxing, di ba, sa pole vault, yan yung iniisip lang ninyo yung event ninyo. Pero yung performance ninyo, may malaking kahulugan yan. It means a lot. May malaking kahulugan yan para sa amin dito na nanonood sa inyo, na sumisigaw at nagsusuporta sa inyo. And that's why it was for me I think we should recognize not only the athletes, although they are, of course, deserving of recognition, but also all the support group. Over the years, hindi nangyari ito dahil nung last year nag-decide ka mag-sports. Matagal-tagal ito. Lalabanan you go through injury, hindi ka makabiyahe dahil walang pambayad ng pamasahe to go abroad, to go to the international competitions. All of these, and yet you come through. And yet you have shown the spirit of the Filipino, the determination of a Filipino, and the excellence of the Filipino spirit. And that's what you have shown for us today. And for that, iniisip ko kanina, nung nangyayari ito, sabi ko, ano kayang pwede natin maitulong sa ating mga atleta, sa ating mga tumulong sa kanila. Habang nanonood ako na news, sabi ko, mayaman na ito si Kaloy. Daming perang binibigay, teka ko ano ito. Sabi ko, isipin kaya natin, magbigay tayo ng ganito. Meron nang nagbigay, 2 pa. Sabi ko, sige, paano natin gagawin to? So, I said, I thought that what we should do is really recognize all the athletes. Number one, all the athletes. I think any athlete, kahit sinong atleta dito sa Pilipinas o kung saan man lang, na makapag-qualify sa Olympics, mabigat yun. That is an extremely difficult achievement to have managed. So, that's why, tama-tama nandito si Chairman lang, siyang maraming pere. So, lahat naman ng atleta natin, bigyan na natin, basta nag-Olympian. Bigyan natin tig 1 milyon, di ba? Ima-match pa ng Office of the President yung bibigay mo para at least matulong tayo. Bukod pa ron, dahil sa ating pangingilala sa mga lahat ng tumulong, the coaching staff, bibigyan din natin ng kalahating milyon para sa kanila. Hihinga ko ng paumanin ninyo dahil maliit lang. At alam ko na yung 1 milyong piso, halimbawa, ay ikumpara mo sa inyong sakripisyo. Ikumpara ninyo sa inyong pinagdaanan. Ikumpara ninyo, napakaliit lang. Pero ngayon lang, ito yung gagawin natin. Ngayon, sabi ko nga, marami na tayong ibinibigay na material things. No? What I would like to now do is to ask our athletes, our coaches, all our sports organizations, imbes na maglalabas kami ng cash, well, if you need more cash, we'll find some more. But I think more importantly, I want to be part of the development of sports in the Philippines. Na iwanan na tayo. If you can consider, if you can consider that all of these athletes who have done so well and have made us so proud, there is no official technical support from the government. They did it on their own. Siyempre, meron tumutulong. Kuminsan yung gobyerno nakakatulong. Pero walang formal na struktura para tulungan yung ating mga atleta. And that's what we are going to establish now. So, I ask all of you to tell us, what is it that you need? Saan kayo, nung sa pag-training ng mga atleta natin, saan kayo nahirapan? Ano hindi ninyo magawa na maitutulong namin? You tell us. And hopefully, if we really work together and start to prepare for not only the Olympics, of course, that's a very important one, but not only the Olympics, we start to prepare for all the international competitions that we have that are before us. And I'm sure that na magkikita ulit tayo rito sa Palasyo, magko-congratulate ulit ako sa inyo, at hihingian natin ng pera yung pagkor ulit.
You just heard Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on Tuesday approved in principle the creation of a cabinet cluster for education, tasked to tackle the country's education crisis in a whole system rather than in multi-agency silos. After a sectoral meeting held in Malacañang Palace, press briefer Daphne Osenya Paez said this is to synthesize a common vision and common direction to reform the education system, to have a positive long-term effect on every Filipino student and graduate. During the meeting, Osenya Paez said President Marcos directed the agencies to devise a coherent and system-wide national integrated education and workforce development strategy that starts from early childhood education to basic education, senior high school, and so on. In a press briefing after the meeting, newly appointed Department of Education or DepEd Secretary Sonny Angara and Executive Director Carol Marquis of the 2nd Congressional Commission on Education or EDCOM-2 welcomed the Chief Executive's decision. Secretary Angara revealed that this was the first presentation on the proposal and thanked the President for his swift action. For his part, Executive Director Yee delivered a brief walkthrough as to what he has presented to President Marcos.
So, yung proposal po kasi ng EDCOM was to create a cabinet cluster for education. If you've seen a report, the Miseducation, the failed system of Philippine education, the insight really was all of the agencies are doing their respective jobs, but they do it independent of one another with no mechanism of really coordinating, making sure that the plans come together and they deliver an integrated system of education. Tulad ng sinabi namin kanina, ang isang bata na tinrain sa early childhood, dapat may maayos na nutrition, may early education, tsaka stimulation. Pupunta yan sa DepEd. Pagdating sa DepEd, kailangan may literacy and numeracy. Tapos pag nag-graduate ng high school, dapat employable. Nakikita natin ngayon na kanya-kanyang agency, kanya-kanyang trabaho, pero hindi nagtutugma. So, for example, yung learning gap na pinoproblema natin ngayon, 5.5 years ang kulang sa isang bawat Pilipinong graduate. Anong ibig sabihin nito? Sabi nga namin, nagpunta kami sa isang high school during the learning camp ng DepEd. Yung mga batang pinapanood namin sa learning camp, hirap silang mag-subtract. Grade 8 students sila. Buong buwan, inaral nila addition and subtraction and they struggled to subtract. We asked them about multiplication and I gave examples, which is really what I asked the students. Sabi ko, 3 times 3. 0 times 0, 10 times 10. Hindi kaya. Pagpasok nila nung July 29, ang lessons nila is quadratic functions. Algebra. How will you solve all of those concerns? Hindi lamang siya problema ng DepEd kasi nakita namin sa iba't ibang issues. For example, early childhood. The data shows us that if you have access to early childhood education from 3 to 4, yung score sa PISA tumataas ng 32 points. So, ang laki ng impact. But yung participation natin in early childhood, 33% lamang. And pag tinignan natin yung daycare teachers and workers, wala palang program sa TESDA or CHED to train them. But you have 79,000 of them. Ang na-train ng ECCD Council for the past year, since 2011, 1,000 per year. 12,000 cumulative, 15% out of the universe of 79,000. Second, we found data that pagdating sa high school teachers natin, the bulk of our science teachers, 50% of them did not finish a course related to science. Not in science. How will you teach something you did not know yourself? 107 out of 113 SUCs natin nag-o-offer ng secondary education. Ang maganda sanang magawa, itugma yun sa pangailangan ng DepEd schools kung nasaan sila, hindi ba? And then yung third natin, yung guidance counseling, we are the bullying capital of the world based on PISA because the highest prevalence of bullying and loneliness sa Pilipinas nangyayari. Ang gumagawa ng trabaho na to based on the Anti-Bullying Act as implemented is yung guidance counselor. Pero yung vacancies natin sa DepEd, almost 5,000. Plantilla positions ng guidance counselors, wala. Yun pala, pag tinignan mo, wala namang nag-o-offer ng Masters in Guidance Counseling all over the country. Yung average graduation numbers, 300 per year. To fill all of the vacancies, it will take us 14 years by the current setup. So malinaw that DepEd, of course, has to do its work in terms of resolving the learning crisis, but it's not something that it could achieve on its own. Kailangan tulungan talaga yung agencies. Malaki yung ginagampanan ng CHED and TESDA, and it's really the National Education and Workforce Development Plan that is long-term, that will anchor them all to make sure that there is one coherent direction. And that is what we propose to the President. A cabinet cluster that will come together, first and foremost, to formulate a 10-year integrated National Education and Workforce Development Plan. And then second, to make sure that the agency targets and budgets are aligned to support this plan every year. Kasi pag hindi natin ginawa ito, 10 years yung laban natin eh. Because yung mga batang pumapasok ng kinder ngayon, kailan pa sila mag-grade 3, 4 years from now? Kailan sila mag-high school? Kailan sila magka-college? Kailangan tuloy-tuloy yung reforms. Because if it is interrupted, bagsak na naman tayo. So mahalagang-mahalaga yung gagampanan ng cluster. And we are grateful to the President for really seeing this very quickly. Sabi niya, we don't have a system. We have different things happening but not working together. We need to fix that. And we are very grateful for his leadership and putting his support behind this proposal and to his commitment to see this through.
EDCOM 2 Executive Director Carol Marquis.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. has ordered the rationalization of the senior high school or SHS curriculum, according to Philippine Department of Education or DepEd Secretary Sani Angara. In a palace press briefing, Angara said the plan is to make the subjects in 4 career tracks optional for students. Angara noted that Filipino SHS learners are required to take at least 20 core subjects. England, Australia, and United States only have 3 to 7 subjects, he said. Angara added DepEd would ensure that the elective complement the students' chosen career track. He said the goal is to make the students well-rounded persons and develop their foundational skills, adding that the DepEd would link up with the industries to help them get a better chance of acquiring high-quality jobs. Currently, there are 4 career tracks under the SHS curriculum: academic, technical, vocational, livelihood, sports, and arts and design. On August 1, the DepEd signed a Memorandum of Agreement or MOA with the Department of Trade and Industry and Thames International School for an e-commerce track for SHS students. The DepEd also signed a MOA with the Private Sector Advisory Council to augment the government's thrust in solving the jobs and skills mismatch problem by coming up with an enhanced work immersion program for SHS learners. In February, Marcos ordered the reintegration of the technical and vocational education and training in the curriculum of SHS. Meantime, Angara emphasized the need to review the National Learning Recovery Program or NLRP, considering that students were not assessed when the initiative was launched. Senator Sherwin Gatchalian also pushed for massive reforms in the NLRP. Carol Marquis, Executive Director of the Second Congressional Commission on Education, said the reforms should take a learner-centered approach.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. has issued Proclamation 664 declaring August 13, 2024 to August 12, 2025 as the centennial year of Manlilikanang Bayan for Ilocano Master Weaver Magdalena Gamayo. Under Proclamation 664, inked by the President on Monday, August 12, the National Commission for Culture and the Arts, or NCCA, is directed to lead, coordinate, and supervise the observance of the Centennial Year Declaration for Gamayo, the oldest living Ilocano Master Weaver, also known as Lola Dalin. The NCCA is tasked to identify programs, activities, and projects for the year-long celebration of Gamayo Centennial Year. All national government agencies and instrumentalities, including government-owned or controlled corporations or GOCCs, state universities, and colleges are enjoined to provide support and assistance to the NCCA. All local government units are likewise encouraged to support the observance of the centennial year of Manlilikanang Bayan. The declaration was made upon the recommendation of the NCCA through the Gawad ng Manlilikanang Bayan Executive Council to promote genuine appreciation among Filipinos of the valuable and intangible cultural distinction of the national living treasure. Under Proclamation 474, issued in 2012, Gamayo has been declared a national living treasure in recognition of her mastery in producing intricate designs and inventing her own patterns of Ilocano abel, and her passion for keeping the traditional weaving industry alive.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on Tuesday held a sectoral meeting to discuss strategies to revitalize the tourism industry at the State Dining Room in Malacañang Palace. The meeting focused on the National Tourism Development Plan, or NTDP 2023 to 2028, which aims to transform the Philippines into a leading tourism destination in Asia by leveraging Filipino culture, heritage, and identity. President Marcos Jr. underscored the importance of a sustainable and competitive tourism industry, highlighting its potential to drive economic growth and create jobs. The NTDP 2023 to 2028 roadmap is anchored on Filipino culture, heritage, and identity, which aims to be sustainable, resilient, and competitive in order to transform the Philippines into a tourism powerhouse in Asia. Under the NTDP, the Department of Tourism, or DOT, would focus on digitalization, enhancement of the overall tourist experience by incentivizing sustainable travel, and improving safety and security in destinations, among others. The agency would also tap local government units, or LGUs, in developing more tourist sites and linking emerging ones to key destinations.
Dateline Malacañang.
The proposed Academic Recovery and Accessible Learning, or ARAL Law, a priority measure identified by the Legislative Executive Development Advisory Council, or LEDAC, is now up for Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.'s signature. This came after the Senate and the House of Representatives ratified the Bicameral Conference Committee report on the disagreeing provisions of Senate Bill 1604 and House Bill 8210 on Tuesday. The ARAL program will seek to establish a national learning intervention program with twofold objective of helping learners catch up with the required standard of their respective grade levels while accelerating the recovery of the learning losses incurred during the pandemic. House of Representatives Committee on Basic Education and Culture Chair and author of the bill, Pasig City Representative Roman Romulo, said the ARAL program aims to address the gap between the current and the expected learning competencies among learners. The proposed program shall cover the most essential learning competencies or MELCs under language and mathematics for grades 1 to 10 and science for grades 3 to 10. Senator Sherwin Gatchalian, who sponsored the bicameral conference committee report at the upper chamber, said through the proposed measure, recovering learners would engage in well-systematized tutorial sessions with an army of teachers, para-teachers, and pre-service teachers who receive sufficient training, focusing on effective pedagogies, interpersonal skills, social-emotional learning, and cultural competency, among others.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Office of the Philippine Vice President, or OVP, on Tuesday assured commuters who will be affected by a planned 3-day nationwide transport strike transport group starting Thursday can avail of its Libreng Sakay or Free Ride program. In a statement, the OVP said the office is prepared to augment its Libreng Sakay buses to commuters that will be affected by the 3-day nationwide transport strike. The Libreng Sakay will be launched at the Parañaque Integrated Exchange Terminal or PITX Naik route, in addition to 11 existing bus routes in Metro Manila, Cebu, Bacolod, and Davao. To date, there are 4 OVP Libreng Sakay buses dispatched in the National Capital Region or NCR for Quiapo to Commonwealth and EDSA Carousel, PITX to Monumento route, and vice versa, with 1 bus each for Cebu, Bacolod, and Davao. For Cebu, existing routes include IT Park to SMC Side, Barangay Mepsa to Barangay Opon in Lapu-Lapu City, and Hagobiao to MC Briones in Mandaue City, and vice versa. 3 routes from Bacolod Public Plaza to Barangay Handumanan, Barangay Punta Taytay, Progreso Village, Vista Alegre, and vice versa in Bacolod City, as well as 3 routes from Rojas Avenue to Kalinan, Lasang, and Toril, and vice versa in Davao City. Manibela, Piston, and other transports groups will stage a transport strike from the 14th to the 16th of August. The transport groups were prompted to hold a transport strike after Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. expressed his support to continue the Public Utility Vehicle or PUV modernization program despite the Senate's call to suspend its implementation.
Dateline Malacañang.
In other news, more than 9,000 volunteers who heeded a call of the Department of Social Welfare and Development, or DSWD, have so far produced 344,316 boxes of family food packs, or FFPs, as replenishment to the FFPs distributed to families affected by Typhoon Karina and enhanced southwest monsoon, or Habagat. The SWD spokesperson, also Assistant Secretary for Disaster Response Management Group, DRMG Irene Dumlao, on Tuesday said, since July 23, volunteers continue to go to the National Resource Operations Center, or NROC, the DSWD's main disaster response hub located along Chapel Road in Pasay City, to help in the bundling of food supplies, forming boxes, and packing. Dumlao said volunteers are still welcome to help. Those interested to volunteer may contact Ms. Shaira Lee at mobile number 0926 061-2646 and email address misslee at dswd.gov.ph for scheduling. As of August 12, a total of 1,217,148 boxes of FFPs comprise the current inventory of the agency's different warehouses and storage facilities nationwide, ready to be distributed to local government units or LGUs that will be affected by disasters. Meanwhile, Kaliwa Dam Projects contractor Energy China has also responded to a request from the Metro Manila Water and Sewerage System, or MWSS, to help the typhoon victims. The Energy China employees have distributed food, rice, and drinking water to the 250 affected families in Daraitan, a village in Tanay Rizal near the Kaliwa Dam project.
Dateline Malacañang.
Education Secretary Sani Angara on Tuesday said a matatag curriculum which was crafted and implemented during Vice President Sara Duterte's time at the Department of Education or DepEd will be amended based on the experience and inputs of teachers. The matatag curriculum or the revised basic education curriculum was rolled out in kindergarten, grade 1, grade 4, and grade 7 this school year. It focuses on foundational subjects such as language, reading and literacy, mathematics, nationalism, and good manners and right conduct. The curriculum has 2 additional programs, the National Mathematics Program or NMP and the National Reading Program or NRP, which are supposed to be done for 4 days for 30 minutes each. Next school year, the second phase of the matatag curriculum will be rolled out in grades 2, 3, 5, and 8. Angara said among the comments they received was the supposed compressed or overloaded and fast-paced teaching schedule.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Philippine Embassy in Hanoi said Filipinos residing in and visiting northern Vietnam this week are advised to take caution as heavy rains are forecast to hit several provinces. In an advisory, the embassy said heavy downpours ranging from 100 to 200 mm are expected in the northern portion of Vietnam and as much as 400 mm of rainfall in some areas until August 15. Filipinos living, working, or visiting the areas were strongly advised to take extra precaution and ensure full cooperation with local authorities in case of severe weather conditions. The localities under monitoring are Dien Bien, Lai Chau, Son La, Hoa Binh, Lao Cai, Yen Bai, Hagyang, Tuyen Quang, Phu Tho, Cao Bang, Bac Can, Thai Nguyen, Lang Son, Bac Yang, Bac Ninh, Quang Ninh, Vinh Phuc, Hanoi, Hanam, Haiphong, Nam Dinh, Ninh Binh, Thai Binh, Than Hoa, and Nghệ An. In case of emergency situations, affected Filipinos are urged to get in touch with the embassy's assistance to national section via 8490 4126-164. Since July, the north and north-central regions of Vietnam have experienced prolonged periods of heavy rainfall, triggering landslides and flash floods.
Dateline Malacañang.
Finally, for Dateline Malacañang, Finance Secretary Ralph Recto said the Philippines is on track to meet its fiscal program for this year on the back of the government's robust revenue effort and manageable deficit level during the first half. Recto made a statement during the 2025 national budget deliberations in the Senate of the Philippines on Tuesday. Data from the DOF showed that as of the first half of the year, the country's total revenues went up by 15.6% to 2.15 trillion pesos. Tax collections from the Bureau of Internal Revenue and the Bureau of Customs reached 1.84 trillion pesos, up by 10% from 2023. Non-tax revenues, on the other hand, went up by 63.3% to 314.2 billion pesos. Expenditures increased by 14.6%, reaching 2.76 trillion pesos. In the first semester of 2024, expenditure to GDP settled at 21.9%. Recto said the fiscal deficit also remained very manageable at 613.9 billion pesos as of end June 2024. As a percentage of GDP, the deficit stood at 4.9% in the first semester, which is below the full-year target of 5.6%. Over the medium term, the government expects revenues to grow by an average of 10.3% annually, while revenues as a percentage of GDP will also increase from 16.1% in 2024 to 17% in 2028. Recto said the BIR and BOC are instructed to work doubly hard and boost efficiency as tax collections are expected to rise by 11.8% annually, which will outpace the roughly 8.7% average increase of nominal GDP every year from 2024 to 2028. This will be driven by projected double-digit collection growths of both agencies. By 2028, the tax effort will rise to 16.3% from 14.4% in 2024. Disbursements, on the other hand, are expected to grow by an average of 7.4% and remain at about 21.1% of the GDP. Meanwhile, he assured the members of the Senate that the government is continuously managing the country's debt according to the highest standards of fiscal discipline. As of June, the gross financing students at 61% of the full-year goal of 2.57 trillion pesos. This includes the $2 billion global bond issuance last May. He said there is no cause for concern over the Philippine government's total outstanding debt because the size of the country's economy is large enough to allow the government to generate without difficulty the resources needed to meet its debt obligations. He further said that the government's medium-term fiscal program, the country's deficit and debt will gradually decline while creating more jobs, increasing people's income, and decreasing poverty.
Dateline Malacañang.
And that is all for today's Dateline Malacañang for Radyo Pilipinas World Service. This has been Bea Gaza.
From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.